Hey everybody, welcome back to Champ and Sons and our Planet Coaster series here that we've got going with Austin's Carnival, as we are looking to add in some expansion, not too much right now, but we do have a big attraction that we're putting into the park, along with kind of filling in some space and really getting the kind of direction of the park that we want to go in. So as we look at this space right here, we do have the path going off in a couple different directions. One extending from Blue Streak, and kind of begs the question, well, what do we put in here? Right? Because I don't want it to just be right after right after right after right. That's just not the way things evolve, essentially. So I think in this corner, what we look at doing is probably going to end up being I would say, a restaurant of some sort, but I want it to be a sit-down one, so one that fills up the corner. It's got an interior and an exterior place to be sitting, so it's something that one still can connect the two sides, so you're able to walk just through the seating area all the way through, kind of cut the corner short, essentially, if you will, and then add in another coaster right about here, because this is what I want to be the boundary of the park. And I think if I put the boundary there, it gives us plenty of space for a parking lot, and it allows me to really kind of decide with the pathing work. Do I bring the path all the way down and keep extending it around that way? So you kind of have the two different separations, and if we do that, how do we want to bring it back together, right? That's going to be the big question on there. But it's how do we extend it? And where do we kind of see the park growing at from here? So this is about as perfect as I can get for I would say definitely a new coaster, right? And I'm going to put a flat ride in probably in this segment. Most coasters are going to have at least 1 to 2 flat rides around them. So that's kind of what I was trying to think of there. But one other thing I wanted to also think of is kind of the flow of this park. So as everybody's walking out this way, what are the viewpoints they're going to see, right? So what is it going to be that's going to draw them in? As we've gotten this pool piece completed with all the benches and the chairs, and not pool, but little pond section completed. We have all the benches and the chairs in, and then it dawned on me, I put in these brick little sections to kind of complete it, so now I gotta make sure people don't clip through it. And trash cans are a pretty good barrier, folks. If you ever have a wonder on that, use a trash can. It'll help kind of cover that stuff up. It just annoys me when people kind of clip through stuff. I know some of the walls I haven't even gone through all the way and marked them, put the supposed barriers into the walls and stuff of some of the buildings, which I see it as I'm building, and it does bother me, but normally if I'm doing recording at the same time, I don't really stop to fix it all that much till afterwards. Now, I did kind of close off this segment here, and really it gives it more of a mulch feeling. I'm going to have to go through and put in some plants. Nothing extravagant, right? It's just one of those, probably some bushes and stuff like that, so it's not going to be too much that we're talking about as we decide to kind of move along with this thing. And so I really like how this is going. I added in this, we saw me put in the swings here. Getting everything fully kind of decorated, bring this area together with the wall and the brick and everything, I think really did work out. And this is what I'm really looking forward to, is this kind of viewpoint. So the coaster's obviously not going to start here, but you're going to have some major viewpoints coming off of this segment right here. And I think it's one of those things that's going to really kind of amplify the experience of the person coming, of people here. You come in, you turn the corner, or you just get off a Blue Streak. You're like, man, where do we want to go next? And one, the park kind of leads you into the back of it this way, but two, you're gonna see this coaster sticking out, and if you're a coaster fan, you're gonna go, well, now then, let's go and hop on that bad boy. So we are gonna jump into a time lapse here, as we are getting these areas kind of set up. So I'm setting up kind of the border for the Mexican restaurant out outside seating area, and I really just wanted to have the outline of it. So I knew sizing, where to kind of put the coaster at, where can I put a flat ride in, and how can I fit that kind of stuff in there. So that's pretty much what that is. That's a framework for it. That's not going to get built in this episode. That is going to be a little bit later on down the road. But what is going to be built in this episode is going to be the coaster itself. Now, once you have a Vekoma, you have a wood one. Yeah, I think B&M is the way to go. And I went with the regular B&M. So this is not a stand-up coaster. It's not a floorless. It's not a invert or anything right now. This is just a regular old sit-down B&M kind of coaster. And no, I didn't put in a powered launch or anything like that. But I did go ahead and get it going to where it's pretty decent size, and it's something that I think turns out really well with what we're wanting in this park. So I'm really proud of how this thing turned out. Now, as this builds, I'm going to go ahead and let y'all listen to some tunes here for a little bit as we get into building it, and I will be back with y'all here in just a little while. So I'll see y'all in a wee bit. Alright, and I am back, folks. Okay, so we are putting this bad boy in. So you're going to have to go through the ground some. But like I said, it's not the tallest coaster in the world, but it has some viewpoints, and especially when we're talking about viewpoints from the pathwork, from the parking lot, this thing is going to be able to be seen from all those places, and man, it is going to look incredible, fellas. I promise y'all. And so I really wanted to kind of put not so much terrain hype, right? But when you dig out part of it, it's kind of one of those, man, I can make a tunnel out of this stuff and all that. But I think this ride really lends itself. Let me just put in a couple little layers in here. So I'm not just digging in tunnels and all that stuff into the ground, but put a couple little layers in. And I thought about a few different options as you see me taking the price down. We have good ratings on the testing so far. And I think it's one of those, this could really work out and be kind of a top-notch coaster for us. But what do we do with the area, right? And so as we kind of finish up this layout, for the most part, it's not 100%, right? You see me fooling with it right here, possibly trying to mess it up and making changes just for the smoothing tool to put it right back to where it was. It's kind of really, what do we do with this spot? How do we actually use the terrain for our benefit, not just in shaping the coaster, but in also kind of essentially the theming of the coaster? And this one is set up, I think, it's going to be called the Quarry, right? So this is going to be essentially built into what looks like a rock quarry. And I think it turned out pretty dang well with how everything fits into it. It's a ride that, well, really, once you get the theming of it, I think it really fits out. I don't have to go too extreme with anything. As far as the theming of it, you can add in buildings that are fairly plain, and it kind of tends to work out pretty damn well. So I am really happy with it. I did block section it because there are block breaks at the end. I didn't add in block section in the middle of it or anything like that, or a midway point. But it is block section. Now, once people are on the ride, this isn't going to be that big of an issue. It's just during testing, it looks like it. So, now I did do some of the rock work and stuff off camera. I know how people like to see rock work, but I decided to save everybody from that. And yeah, ended up going ahead and do a lot of it. So we did the ground painting with gravel, rocks on the side. So essentially like it's been dug out. But there's a lot more stuff to do on this thing, because we are going to be adding in a photo section. I've got a lot of the queue line already set up, the exit path set up, so there's a lot more stuff that we got to do on this coaster. And I'm going to try to put in a transfer track, and I don't want to do the one where it sits off the track. I just think there's a better way that if it was side by side, yeah, this kind of turns into it. And I know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to actually make it kind of, I guess, run into it, right? Like that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I'm new to transfer tracks. We'll continue to work on them as, the park evolves and different coasters come in. But I don't mind that it kind of sticks in there like that. It just annoys me, the pop-up message I get that this coaster's incomplete, even when I disable those notifications. Well, hey, it is what it is. It's got to be what it's got to be, you know what I'm saying? So we are going to finish working on this maintenance building. We're going to finish working on some of the decoration to the actual coaster. And guys, we are going to have a POV here at the end of the episode, so definitely stay tuned for that. It is a fun coaster to ride once you see everything get in. But guys, I'm going to hop off for now, let y'all enjoy the music for a while longer, and I will see y'all here in just a little while once again. And I am back as we work on this station building. Now, I kind of like how this thing turned out. One, I didn't want it to be completely closed in because I just don't like closed-in stations. Like I said, mainly being in Texas, we don't get a whole lot of enclosed stations. Very rarely do you. Normally because they end up being hot as hell. But I really like how this one turned out, essentially with all the rafters, the support beams. And mainly just because this ride, being called the quarry, essentially, going through an abandoned rock quarry to a sense. The buildings that are going to be in there are pretty going to be plain and basic. They're not going to be too extravagant, too decorated, or anything like that. They are going to be, basic looking. It's one of those things that's just how it kind of works out. No one's going to spend all this time on extravagance for these things. So I was perfectly happy with how these buildings ended up turning out here. And I think overall this came out really well up to this point. Now, running into these kind of drop down posts, they weren't my favorite to do it this way, but I think it does kind of work out pretty fittingly. So we can still put in the railings. I can put in the base to the building to cover up the, path supports and all that kind of stuff. And so it really, I think, does turn out very nicely. Definitely let me know in comments what you might have changed if you would have changed anything in it. Let me know what you would have done. Or any suggestions that you have, go back and kind of fix stuff up, because I'm always more than willing to take those suggestions. But I do like how this one turns out. Taking the queue line, especially coming down here. This is what's funny. Normally to get these angles, I always just match it up. And I do have my angle snap on, so then I put them in, and I normally don't run into too much of an issue. It just seemed odd that everything just felt kind of slightly off in this realm with doing this portion of it. But I think we got it handled, we are going to eventually put in a gift shop and all that fun jazz at the exit point of the ride. So once you come down through the exit of it, you are going to basically walk up and boom, there's your gift shop, right? So I think it does turn out pretty well. Now, looking at the queue and needing to put in some railings for the queue, I think you always have a couple different options. These right here, turns out, I kind of debated between the yellow and and these. Now, keep in mind, when I built this was before the whole squared off path thing got released, so it is still circular, and I'm not very good at doing the whole, pinpoint changing to make it squared. So don't expect that. We'll probably put in some ground cover, but that's going to be about most that you're going to notice from me, at least. Outside of that, I want to get these railings put in just so we still have the separator. It does still keep it semi-realistic, at least, as far as going through a queue line. And once again, it does kind of bring the aesthetic of the whole ride together as I start putting this stuff in. Now, I'm just noticing this as I'm looking at it. I do have a couple of those railings pretty close together where it's kind of doubled up right there in the middle. But that's alright. I'll live. I'll get over it. Can't let perfect be the enemy of good. You know what I'm saying? And I do think this is good. So we're just going to go along, get these things fenced off, and really start to kind of finish up some stuff as far as decorating it. Now, I do a lot of stuff off camera also, because I think some things just seem a little bit tedious, and I know whenever I watch some Planet Coaster videos, there's some things that I see that I'm like, well, it doesn't interest me too much to actually see that. So I try to keep that in mind when I'm building it and trying to produce these videos for y'all. Although I say that as we're watching me do the railings, the queue path. So take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But this is the kind of stuff that I actually do enjoy seeing, is these kind of little details. But some things, like the sign, exterior work, rock work, obviously, is not the greatest type of thing to watch. That's why you didn't see it here. I did actually cut that out. I did record it. Don't get me wrong. It was definitely recorded, but I did cut it out just because it just didn't seem right. But I really wanted to have this thing. I think it's got a certain feel to it, like a certain rustic feel to the actual to the coaster and to this whole area, and it really does bring this whole segment together. Now, I still haven't decided what am I going to end up doing with this coaster, or with the pathing, in terms of taking it around to the other side of the coaster, or do we kind of shut down the transition of the park on this side? And I am going to have to bring a path on this other side. It's just whether I continue it from the path between the Cyclone all the way around, or once I extend beyond this one on the other side past Blue Streak, do I cut it, essentially tee it off from that portion? I haven't really decided that yet, and that's kind of one of the parts that's hard about going in and building a park like this, is looking at where do you want it to go and how. So where do you want to go with the park, and how do you plan to get there, right? Now, this park is really, I'm not wanting any area to be heavily themed. I prefer the rides to be themed over anything else. And I think that's kind of what we did a pretty decent job of with this one, guys. I will say, did a pretty decent job of it. But it's one of those, I just want to be careful to not theme a whole area for the most part, unless I do that deliberately. It has happened to me accidentally. I think if you play this game, try to do a theme of a ride, it tends to accidentally happen to you in whole areas, even if it wasn't your intention. It's kind of one of those deals. It's just how it works out. And I think this really does come together pretty well. Now, like I said, this was before the squared off pass, so I hate the fact that it's curved. And I don't know, I might go through, and now that the patch is out, or not patch, but update is out, I might go through and square off these curves. I don't know. A part of me says keep it. Another part says, dude, get rid of it. I just haven't really decided that yet. And it's a tough decision to make in all reality, not because it's an excessive amount of work or anything, because it's really not. When you square off the path, you just repaint over it. But I don't know. I do. It's one of those nostalgic feelings, like, oh, this is how Planet Coaster 2 was at the beginning, back in my day. And so I think it kind of has that sentiment to it, and that's kind of what I'm going to be sticking with for it. So closing this off, and I really, these railings are rather simple. Now, don't get me wrong, I thought about going in and doing essentially rock. So if you take a look at the Cyclone videos and the entrance queue there, it's all the red rock. That was in a thought more of a, hey, this queue path's been dug out, so this is why it all looks like this. We dug it through the red rock or something like that. And at least that was the theory behind it. I thought about doing that with this, but in the end, I decided the tedious measurement of the rails till I went cross-eyed was the better way to go. And I can't say I totally disagree with myself on this one. I think I was right. I got to admit, I do think I was right. The railings do look a lot better. So, like I said, we are going to have a POV ride. I know I keep repeating that, but trust me, we are. It's going to be coming up here in probably about 2 minute time. 2 minutes, give or take. Where we're going to hop on and see it. Now, one of the better parts of this is, yes, we are going to continue rock work all the way around. So by the time you come up to see the ending prospect of it, yes, it is going to look a little bit different. I do add in a bunch of rocks. But I mean, hell, it's a rock quarry, people. You got to add in the rocks. It's just, once again, as much as you got to add in, I don't think you need to see it all the way. See it all be added. So All right, we are pretty much done there. Now, like I said, the exit building is going to come off of that path work. It's going to be stuck right there in the middle, and I think that's really a good way for it to kind of end up working out. Now, we do have the coaster testing, and what's funny is putting in all the decorations, it looks like, what is that, Fear ended up dropping some. Excitement's up still at 6.4, but Fear's now in the orange, which is just odd to me. It is just kind of weird, so funny, but weird. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump into the POV right here in about 30 seconds, give or take. Now, before we do jump into that, I do want to remind y'all to hit the subscribe button if you have not hit it already, and definitely give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the coaster. Let me know what you might want to see change in the comments, and hit that bell icon to be notified of anything that we do upload here at Champ & Sons. So we're going to go ahead and hop on this thing with that funny little editing glitch, and I'm going to let this go through. Y'all don't have to listen to me anymore. And guys, I will see y'all in the next episode. So as always, stay safe. I don't know how it goes from here, right? Later.